Yeah, sadly, these videos, I'm using iPad and somehow the videos sometimes get cut after 10 minutes, sometimes after 16, sometimes after 35, so I need to kind of work it out, like what's the problem. Yeah, but hello, back again. My eighth lesson, I'm working on this project, 22 lessons for the 22nd century, because I think the title is funny. Again, commenting on these two books, Timothy Snyder on Tyranny, 20 lessons from the 20th century, and Yuval Noah Harari, 21 lessons from the 21st century. So my point here is to discuss, to draw on these books and come up with my own lessons based on Nassim Nicholas Taleb, based on other models from like model thinking or mental models or scientific concepts that I found really important and pregnant, meaning like they are really useful heuristics or useful tools to use in many different situations. So the eighth one, which is against which I called identity in small doses is medicine, identity in excess is poison. So you can use it for many other things, not just identity, but the idea that something in small dosages is medicine, in big dosages is poison. It means complex. The substance has some kind of complex function, like it's growing and then it's going down. So you have some positive kind of some kind of positive effects until some threshold is reached and you have negative effects. So I started to explain in the last video that imagine you are on a desert and then somebody's like somebody's lost on desert in the desert. And then for 2 days almost dying out of thirst, and then he finds an oasis, runs, and he has a cup for some reason, I don't know, and he drinks the first sip after 2 days. And the first sip is amazing, it saves his life. So the expected value, the marginal utility, marginal utility is almost infinite. That's just amazing. But imagine he keeps drinking, and then the 6th, 7th, the 8th, the 10th cup, I don't know, the 20th cup, you name it, you I don't know which one, but after certain level he is gonna become sick, right, of the cups, of the water. It's gonna become painful. It might even hurt him physically, like his health and stuff like that. So this is the same idea, and I wanted to connect it to identity politics. Like Václav Havel, I think, mentioned here that you should brew beer in the Tyranny. Important, you should brew beer, you should meet your friends and do whatever hobbies you want. You can meet some effective altruists, you can garden, meet gardeners, mobile gardens, urban gardening, I don't know what you do. It's important to meet some people and to build some identity around some kind of some projects, some identities, and you should promote your interests and fight for your interests. That's amazing, that's great. But as I mentioned before, growth versus development. So if you grow too much into one direction, it might become counterproductive. You become you get 1 billion users on your social network, amazing, but if they feel like you're wasting their lives, it's not so good. So you should, the same thing is for identity politics. Some of the concepts are really important, maybe, but if you are just pushing it too hard, you come to ever less interesting, less important, more irritable concepts, and pushing something that actually people then find, majority of people, like including minorities, then might find not just offensive, but like kind of just counterproductive, something. So small dosages medicine, big dosages poison. This means many things in life are complexity. This is a recurring theme. So another one is combine various styles of thinking. Wow, amazing. So I just wrote it yesterday. day before yesterday, and I was like, yeah, I don't know now what I meant. No, but okay. So combine various styles of thinking. This problem with identity politics, and I think it's more general, is because of this on an abstract level, it's just overusing the analytic thinking. So imagine you are splitting things into ever smaller groups. So now you end up, let's say, some really small thing. This is really a general. Okay, imagine like some Aboriginal people who have like some native or like First Nations or something heritage. Let's say they would fight with people who are of color or something like that because they want to distinguish themselves. So that's, or some kind of, I don't know, leftists of this kind of proclivity, or social democrats fighting with some other leftists or like this and that, and you can split anyone into ever smaller groups. That's why also there's one reason why identity politics is kind of, if it's brought into extreme, it's counterproductive because it splits people. But on a very abstract level, this is a failure of too much analytical thinking as opposed to synthetic thinking. That's the opposite direction, and as opposed to systemic thinking, for example. So it's the same thing as the growth in one dimension. You are analyzing things just too much, splitting it into ever smaller groups, and then you are losing the overarching identity, the universal identity. Just a side note, in complexity science, or like thinking in complex things, would be like you would like to not just splitting people into ever smaller identities, but you would like to look at like what is the commonalities between those guys. Maybe those guys are from small villages as opposed to big cities. No, it doesn't really matter much. Sometimes if you go to elite school and you were born and you grew in a wealthy family in a big city, it doesn't really matter like what is your color and this and that, but you are of a certain identity compared to, let's say, a very small village or impoverished region where the company is left or something. So maybe splitting people on some other identities, finding some other commonalities, like what is your node, how big your node in the network is, meaning how big is your town where you were born, your village, what kind of infrastructure does the village have. So okay, this is the idea that combining various styles of thinking. So the synthetic thinking is this one. It's finding common patterns, the systemic thinking. Okay, but synthetic thinking, it's a metaphor. It's you can exchange. So it goes the other way around. So you don't split things into ever smaller categories. You kind of trying to look at common patterns, commonalities, common things. So this is not just the opposite of analytical thinking or too much analytical thinking. You are looking for synthetic or systemic thinking, looking for commonalities, for common patterns, that if you change the common pattern, you can change many more situations. So and then there is this post